Imagine for a second that you are presented with this really profound choice, like a fundamental choice about how you're going to spend the next 80 years of your existence.
Okay.
So, on one hand, you can close your eyes right now and slip into this wonderful, totally blissful, endlessly fascinating dream.
Right.
It's an illusion, sure, but one that lasts for exactly 8 decades. Or, on the other hand, you can stay awake. You can study, work, grind, pay taxes, and just, struggle through the physical reality you're in right now for those same 80 years.
Yeah.
Which one do you actually choose? Like the perfect illusion or the really difficult reality?
Well, it forces us into this fascinating philosophical corner right out of the gate. Almost immediately, most of us feel this heavy, kind of ingrained moral obligation to choose the struggle.
Totally.
We're just so deeply conditioned by society to believe that reality, no matter how harsh or tedious it is, possesses this inherent unassailable value, and that an illusion, no matter how beautiful, simply lacks that value.
We absolutely cling to the waking world. We treat it as like the only valid metric of existence. So welcome back, learner, to today's deep dive. Because today we are exploring a single radical piece of source material that attempts to just completely dismantle that exact instinct.
Yeah, it really does.
It is an essay titled Dream World and the Space of Life. It was written by Xu Feng in August 2017 and translated by Treasure. And, this text doesn't just ask that opening question as some fun, disposable thought experiment.
Right, it goes way further.
Exactly. It uses it to propose this sprawling framework that completely blurs the lines between what we call reality, what we call dreams, and, well, the mechanics of what happens after we die. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Because my immediate reaction to that opening choice is, frankly, really defensive. A dream isn't real. Like, the apple I eat in a dream doesn't nourish my physical body, right?
Yeah, that's the natural reaction.
The author is suggesting this is a false dichotomy, but I need to understand the fundamental premise of why.
Well, the author asks us to completely redefine the concept of the self. And it starts with the word life.
Okay.
In the text, life is capitalized to distinguish it from, our temporary biological lifespan. It refers to the continuous, unbroken essence of your consciousness.
Ah, I see. The essence.
Right. And to this continuous life, there is absolutely no experiential difference between what happens in the physical world and what happens in a dream.
Really? None at all.
Well, the text asks us to, analyze the actual phenomenology of dreaming. Your physical body is paralyzed in a bed, sure, but your consciousness is fully immersed, fully rendering, and fully experiencing an entirely different space.
Oh, yeah, I see where this is going. Like, if you were being chased by a tiger in a nightmare,
Exactly.
your physical body physically responds. Your heart is, like, pounding against your ribs. You wake up in a cold sweat.
Yeah.
So the terror you feel is an actual biological and psychological fact. The joy you feel when you see a deceased loved one in a dream isn't some fake emotion. You are genuinely feeling joy.
Precisely. The feeling of annoyance, the mundane worry, the intense joy, the absolute terror. The text highlights that these emotional and psychological states in a dream are experienced just as acutely.
Wow.
And they're registered by your consciousness just as authentically as they are in waking reality. Your continuous essence, your life, doesn't actually know the difference.
That is wild.
Yeah. And therefore, the author arrives at a pretty staggering conclusion. Waking life itself is also just a dream. It's just one specific type of experience for your life.
But we don't treat it like that.
No, we don't. Because our thoughts stubbornly trap us. We kind of corner ourselves into believing that only the physical waking world is the real one, which causes us to completely ignore this vast alternative space where, our consciousness spends a third of its time.
Man, it's like we are wearing a highly restrictive VR headset, and we are utterly convinced that the specific simulation we are running is the only thing that exists in the entire universe.
Right.
Just because it's the one we happen to be currently logged into.
That's a perfect analogy.
But if waking life and our sleeping dreams are both just, different experiences of life, that naturally begs the biggest question of all.
Which is,
what mechanically happens when the physical waking life ends? Like when the biological body shuts down and the VR headset is just permanently removed?
well, the source is remarkably literal about this mechanism.
Yeah.
Human bodies die, but life does not.
Okay.
Because life is that continuous non-material essence. It survives the expiration of the physical form.
Oh.
But And this is key. It doesn't travel to some physical location in the clouds or like a fiery pit underground.
Oh, interesting.
Instead, life continues to live on in a dream state. The critical difference is that this time there is no physical body to anchor it, limit it, or pull it back to waking reality when an alarm clock rings.
So wait, if waking life is like a highly restricted video game server
Yeah.
where gravity, physics, friction, and, biological needs like eating and sleeping constantly apply, death is essentially migrating your consciousness into ultimate unbridled sandbox mode.
That is the exact mechanism the text describes. The space of life is infinite, and the time of life is infinite. Once the physical body is gone, this post-physical dream state becomes completely boundless.
That's hard to even wrap your head around.
It is, but the text actually provides very specific, tangible examples of what happens in this infinite dream space. It might seem unimaginable from our current, restricted physical perspective, but the essay notes you can routinely reunite with dead loved ones.
Wow.
You can allow yourself to fly across landscapes. You can miraculously transform into things and situations that you deeply long for. You can even attain what the author describes as magic powers and spells.
Which logically tracks within the framework, right? Because if the physical laws of nature are gone, the only remaining limit is the limit of the consciousness generating the experience.
Exactly.
And I have to point out a highly specific and honestly very memorable detail the author includes here to kind of hammer this point home.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
Yeah, the essay explicitly notes that making love in dreams is actually more intense, more comfortable, unforgettable, and impressive than it is in physical reality.
Yeah, and the author includes that detail for a very specific philosophical purpose.
Yeah.
It's meant to break our deeply held bias that the physical body is the ultimate necessary vehicle for pleasure or profound experience.
Right.
By arguing that a purely conscious experience like intimacy in a dream surpasses the physical version, the text reinforces that the non-material world is not some downgraded, foggy version of reality.
It's the upgraded version.
Exactly, the upgraded, unencumbered version. The limitations of physical friction, bodily fatigue, awkwardness, and physical form are completely removed.
Yeah.
The consciousness is experiencing the pure essence of the connection.
The ultimate unbounded sandbox. But here's where it gets really interesting and where the text introduces a massive catch.
There's always a catch.
Right. If the afterlife is just an eternal dream where absolutely anything is possible, unencumbered by a physical body, how do we guarantee we get the pleasant dream? Because an eternal sandbox where anything is instantly manifest sounds incredible, right up until the exact moment it turns into a permanent, inescapable nightmare.
And that transition right there is the crux of the essay's entire warning. Moving from the boundless possibilities of the dream state to the rigid rules that actually govern it.
Okay, so there are rules.
Yes, the quality of our eternal dream is not a roll of the dice. It isn't assigned to us randomly by a judge. It is entirely constructed by our own consciousness. And this is where the source completely relocates the concepts of heaven and hell. They are entirely internalized.
The text states explicitly, heaven and hell are what the author calls the non-material structures of our lives.
Yes.
They are architectural structures you are actively building within your mind right now, like block by block, thought by thought. And I was actually shocked by the list of building materials for this mental hell. It's not just the extreme sins we usually associate with damnation.
No, the text provides a very diagnostic list. It says that if a mind is full of envy, hate, greed, fear, anxiety, struggling, fighting, killing, despoiling, maintaining possessions, and controlling others.
Wait, maintaining possession?
Yeah. If those are present, then that non-material structure is fundamentally defective. Notice the inclusion of things we consider entirely normal, even necessary in modern life.
Like struggling and anxiety.
Exactly. The author argues that if your mind is built out of those materials, you are undoubtedly already living in hell. You will suffer from nightmares now, in this life, and when the human body passes on, your life will permanently descend into an eternal nightmare generated by that very same defective structure.
Because hell is just the inescapable nightmare generated by a mind that only knows how to build nightmares.
Right.
And conversely, the architecture of heaven is built from joy, gratitude, appreciation, pleasure, love, beauty, elegance, and what the text beautifully translates as unrestrained nature.
I love that phrase.
Me too. If that is your mental structure, you live in heaven right now, your dreams are pleasant, and your life simply ascends to an eternal, pleasant dream after death. But let me push back on the strictness of this for a moment.
Sure.
Think about the dreams you have most often. If I'm really stressed about a massive high-stakes presentation at work, And I have a terrible anxiety nightmare where I show up in my underwear and all my teeth fall out.
Oh, the classic teeth falling out dream.
Right. Does this text really mean my soul is fundamentally defective and I am descending to an eternal hell just because I had a bad Tuesday?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the text isn't talking about a one-off bad night caused by eating spicy food or a temporary deadline at work.
Okay, that's a relief.
It uses our recurring, overarching dream states as a broader diagnostic tool.
Mm-hmm.
The author asks a very direct question. What kind of dreams are most of yours? If they are usually beautiful and calm, your consciousness is structurally sound. But if your dreams always leave you annoyed, sad, depressed, fearful, or terrified, that is the proof that the consciousness has too many misdirected and harmful thoughts.
So it's about the baseline.
Exactly. It's a litmus test for the foundational state of your mind. A single anxiety dream about your teeth falling out is just a symptom of a stressful week. But a lifetime of terrifying, oppressive dreams is a diagnosis of a defective, non-material structure.
Wow. So if you're listening to this on your commute right now, learner, think about the baseline frequency of your mind today.
Yeah, take stock of it.
Are you furiously frustrated in traffic? Are you gripping the steering wheel, just furious at the car in front of you? According to this text, you aren't just having a frustrating morning. You are actively placing bricks in the architecture of a permanent nightmare.
It's a sobering thought.
It really is. It makes it feel much less punitive and much more about the mechanical baseline of our thoughts, but it leads to a terrifying realization. If our consciousness is the ultimate architect of our reality, our dreams, and our afterlife, how do we actually control it? Because I don't consciously decide to have a nightmare. I don't choose the setting. I don't cast the characters. It just happens to me.
And that leads directly to the most critical revelation in the text, the concept of the deep consciousness. The author leans on a very classic psychological metaphor here, but uses it to propose something genuinely terrifying regarding the mechanics of our reality.
The iceberg metaphor.
Yes.
It's familiar, but the text kind of weaponizes it. It explains that the consciousness we are actually aware of, like the part of you and me having this conversation right now, the part that decides what to eat for breakfast or what to put on during a commute, that is just the surface consciousness.
Right.
It is the tiny tip of the iceberg floating above the water. We arrogantly think it's in charge because it's the only part we can see, but the deep consciousness is the massive unseen bottom of the iceberg submerged in the dark.
And the text argues it's not just that the submerged ice represents hidden desires. That massive hidden structure is literally generating the reality the tip is experiencing.
Oh, wow.
Which perfectly explains why we feel so profoundly powerless so much of the time. The deep consciousness is the true engine, meaning we fundamentally lack control over our own existence.
The surface mind is quite literally just along for the ride.
Exactly. The text highlights this powerlessness by pointing out that there are 18 specific factors in life that we are completely unable to manage or control.
18 factors. That is a very specific number the author hones in on to prove how little agency the surface mind actually has.
Yeah, and while the text doesn't exhaustively list all 18 in this specific passage, it gives crucial, undeniable examples that frame our entire existence.
Like what?
We cannot choose our parents. We cannot choose the exact time of our birth. We cannot choose the era we were born into or the physical surroundings and socioeconomic environment we inherit on day one.
Right. We can't self-manage any of that.
No, we just wake up inside of them. Why?
Huh.
Because, as the text states, all of this is predetermined and controlled entirely by the deep consciousness.
It's a brilliant way to explain that profound feeling of helplessness we experience in both waking life and in dreams. Like, think about the mechanics of dreaming.
Yeah.
When you are in a dream, you don't actively, consciously decide, I think I'll render a high school hallway right now and I'll populate it with my old math teacher and a flock of birds.
You never do.
You just suddenly find yourself there, completely immersed, reacting to an environment that was built for you behind your own back.
Wow, yeah.
And the text argues that waking reality is generated exactly the same way. The circumstances of your life, your parents, your birthplace, the major forces that shape your daily trajectory, they are generated by a part of your own mind that you don't even have the security clearance to access.
It forces a massive structural question, though. If our surface mind doesn't control this massive hidden deep consciousness, what does? If this submerged iceberg is just generating our reality and our afterlife behind our backs, what rules is it following? It can't just be random chaos or the entire concept of heaven and hell as architectural structures falls apart.
Right, there has to be an operating system running the deep consciousness.
Exactly. And the author explains that the deep consciousness connects directly with the Tao.
The Tao.
Yeah, and when the text mentions the Tao here, it's not talking about abstract mysticism. Think of it like the fundamental source code of the universe. Just as a video game engine dictates that dropping an apple makes it fall to the ground, the Tao dictates the physics of your consciousness.
Okay, I follow.
It is dominated by ultimate universal laws. Specifically, the author names two operating principles, the law of causality and the law of attraction.
Let's break down how those two laws function as the source code in the context of this essay. Causality and attraction.
Okay, so law of causality is the engine of retribution. It means every action, every thought, every single brick you place in your non-material structure has a direct, unavoidable consequence that registers in the deep consciousness. There's a mathematical ledger,
Wow.
and the law of attraction provides the checks and balances. You attract physical reality, the dream state, and ultimately the afterlife that exactly matches the frequency of your deep consciousness.
So it attracts on a cosmic scale.
Yes.
If your deep consciousness is built out of the materials of fear, anxiety, and the need to control others, the law of attraction dictates that you will pull fearful realities and terrifying nightmares toward you.
The author emphasizes the inescapable nature of this system. It makes everything highly complex, but also incredibly meticulous and entirely without loopholes. You cannot cheat the deep consciousness.
You can't fake it.
No, you cannot fake being a good, generous person on your surface consciousness, smiling at your neighbors and giving to charity, while your deep consciousness is secretly boiling with greed and envy. The universal laws bypass the tiny tip of the iceberg entirely. They interface directly with the massive structure beneath the water.
There are no cheat codes in this sandbox. The source code reads your actual data, not your presentation.
Precisely.
Which leads to the text's concluding and rather sobering proverb. Because the system is so meticulous and completely loophole-free, the author concludes that it is incredibly easy to reach hell, but it is harder to enter heaven than a camel passing through the eye of a needle.
Because the natural gravity of human existence, the daily struggle, the maintaining of possessions, the constant anxieties of survival, tends to pull our deep consciousness toward defective structures. Hell is the default trajectory if we are not actively, consciously doing the architectural work to change it.
So, what does this all mean for us? If it's genuinely harder than a camel passing through the eye of a needle, how does the author suggest we actually solve this massive problem? Are we just doomed to eternal nightmares because we get stressed about paying rent?
Well, the text provides a final directive, a singular monumental solution. We must remove the bad factors in the deep consciousness.
Okay.
We have to, in the author's words, clean the clutter from the passage of life. The essay promises that if and only if those bad factors are systematically removed and the clutter of anxiety, hate, and greed is cleaned out, then all of your dreams will become great ones.
That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, your waking life will harmonize, and you will ultimately ascend to that eternal, boundless heaven.
It is a breathtaking scope when you step back and look at the framework we've covered today.
It really is.
We started by completely redefining reality, tearing down the wall between waking life and dreams, realizing they are both just phenomenological experiences of a continuous essence called life. We've moved the epic destinations of heaven and hell out of the clouds and the underworld and placed them squarely into the non-material architecture of our own minds.
Right.
And perhaps most humbling of all, we've realized that an unseen, massive, deep consciousness governed by strict source code laws of causality and attraction is pulling the strings of both our waking fates and our eternal afterlife.
It forces a total reevaluation of where we spend our mental energy.
Yeah.
It demands that we stop obsessing over the physical world and start tending to the non-material structure of our minds.
Absolutely.
But if we follow the mechanics of this text to their logical extreme, it leaves us with a truly lingering, entirely new question to consider.
Oh, what is it?
The text hinges everything on the deep consciousness surviving the physical body.
Huh.
But what happens while we are still alive if the physical brain is severely altered?
Oh, wow.
Think about people suffering from profound dementia or traumatic brain injuries that completely change their personalities. Does the deep consciousness remain perfectly intact and structurally sound beneath that physical damage?
That's a terrifying thought.
Or does the degradation of the physical brain somehow corrupt the non-material structure, trapping them in a hell they didn't architect?
Man, if the physical brain is just the VR headset, Does smashing the headset damage the player?
Exactly.
It's a massive, unsettling challenge to take away from this. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey today, learner. It's a heavy concept to process, but I highly encourage you the next time your head hits the pillow tonight, pay very close attention to exactly where your mind starts to wander. Monitor those thoughts, because you might just be laying the bricks for your own internal architecture. Have a great day.